Hello, it is April 21st. I'm continuing with my interview with Elizabeth Zamora, and we're going to continue where we left off. Okay, so Liz, how was COVID-19, how did COVID-19 change the way you received education?
For me, it was very difficult because of the fact that we had to use online learning, and I feel like that really affected my grades and my performance overall. And
Sorry, continue.
no, go ahead.
Have you had any prior experience with online learning?
Yes, I have. A program called Summit. I personally didn't necessarily like it. Because
Another thing I wanted to ask, besides education, how did COVID-19 affect your school?
when we went into from being in school to learning online and through Zoom, and whenever the internet went out, it was just straight chaos, And at one point, our school was like, if your Wi-Fi goes out, basically, that's your fault. That's your responsibility. And they told us straight up that we could just go to the school and just continue work there. And risk getting sick? No. I mean, no.
Has any of your family, like around your age or younger, have had to deal with these sorts of like complications too with their schools?
Yes. It's very hard for the kids to like focus, and sometimes some of them don't even do the work. So I feel like that really impacts how their mindset. They're like, oh, this is home, I could relax, instead of oh, I'm in school, I need to do this.
Do you think this could affect them, like the way they like as they get older, this could really affect them if they're ever like maybe trying to get a job?
Possibly. Maybe the fact that they don't socialize as much with others or adults could really impact the way they either talk to them, or they just might have trouble communicating with others, like social anxiety and all that.
And about your school, like what is the current status of it as of now? Like, are they still doing online learning? Do you know?
No, they're back to going, the regular schedule. I still feel like it's unsafe. I mean, that's just my view. But some of them need to go. No, it's okay. But some of them need to go back, into the group.
Do you know if there's any sorts of restrictions before they like physically show up to school, masks or vaccinations?
I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure as far as vaccinations, but they did hold like certain events at the school for vaccines where you could bring your children and all that, and even adults. So I'm assuming most of them probably got it. And what was the other question?
So you mentioned that your school gave out vaccinations. Did your school try helping out the community in other ways?
They would give out lunch to the students. Like they would from the school they would bring buses over and drop off food, which I thought was helpful. Since COVID and there wasn't any money flow.
Did you and your family benefit from that service?
Yeah.
Are there any other challenges you would like to add in, like the way how COVID affected your education?
I not really.
Okay, we're moving on to vaccinations. Did you get your vaccination?
Yes.
How would you describe the experience?
The first day was fine. Then the second day is when I noticed the pain on my arm. I was in extreme pain. But other than that, nothing much.
What was the vaccination that you took?
The FDA approved one.
I believe that was Pfizer.
I think so. I got it at CVS.
Oh, I see. How would you say it was like to get it scheduled?
Really easy. I just asked, do you guys offer like the COVID vaccine? And they said yeah. And I just gave them my ID. They gave me a card, and I got the vaccine.
Did you take your vaccine like when vaccines were relatively new, or once they were more settled into the community?
It wasn't when it was new. No. I waited like at least like some months, like a lot of months.
Besides some pain on your second dose, did you have any other after effects?
No.
And now I'd like to move on to politics. How do you believe politics affected how COVID has been handled?
I feel like the rules weren't strict enough for the traveling and all that. And honestly, I didn't even know COVID was an actual thing until it had gotten so bad.
Like, how do you feel about how Texas handled it? Like, for example, like the removal of mask mandates.
Oh yeah. I didn't feel safe in grocery stores or anything like that, or restaurants, at the fact that some restaurants didn't even have any mask mandates. Some stores didn't require masks anymore, and I don't know, I just didn't feel quite safe.
Does that feeling still linger, even though mostly in our area, most do not wear masks?
Yeah.
So I noticed you mentioned stores, and that brought up the question of how would you compare COVID in 2022 to COVID in 2019?
Can you repeat that question?
How would you compare COVID in 2019 to COVID in 2019 when it first came?
Drastic change, with the new variants coming out, and at least back then, it wasn't a variant, it was just one thing. So it's constantly evolving, which I don't like.
Now that you bring up variants, how did you, just from the mention of COVID-19 and that it was a sickness, did you think it would be something like the flu? Like, did you think it would be less harmful or more harmful than what we know?
Honestly, I thought it'd be like the flu, just something that we could get over,
With new variants coming up, how would you say that impacts your view of the future?
Well, I feel like it's gonna be harder to fight off. Maybe. I'm not sure, honestly. But I feel like the future seems pretty grim.
Would you be willing to discuss some work-related challenges that COVID-19 has given you?
I wasn't employed in 2019.
No, it can be any year.
Well, in 2019, it wasn't that bad, no.
Do you know at least anybody in your family who suffered from the lockdown in 2019?
My dad. Basically, he cleans fish, and we live on the island, South Padre Island, so there's bound to be, tourists and all that. So that really impacted the income in the house.
Would you say that in this current year that your family is at least financially becoming stable again?
I feel like slowly it's starting to become stable again, maybe, but prices are increasing too, so I'm not sure.
Has that impacted your own search for a job?
Yeah.
Did you have any other job prospects that you had to reconsider because of COVID?
Yeah, like waiters, and just the food industry,
How do you think South Padre Island is doing ever since COVID has hit?
I feel like the money kind of went away, but the tourists are coming back, during the holidays and all that. So I feel like that's at least helping the businesses at least a bit more.
Although it's stabilizing, would you say that the island suffered a lot of failed businesses because of COVID-19?
Yeah, I really do. A lot of places started closing down.
Also, I recall hearing that South Padre is actually reconsidering what demographic it wants to cater to, like in terms of tourism. Would you say COVID had like a part to do with that, at least a bit?
Um, Probably, yeah.
With so much changing on the island, how has the nature of finding work changed?
Um, Definitely gonna need more waiters. Just customer service.
And I remember you mentioning, like with us mentioning about mask mandates and such, and the fact that they sort of became lenient within the area. How do you think that's been for the workers? Like, do they still have to are they still mandated to wear masks? Things like sanitization.
Some places have sanitization. Um, there's some places that don't require masks. There's some places that do. But for the most part, I usually do. I bring a mask.
Have you noticed if there's not a stark difference, but a difference in the way that workers and customers are treated in terms of like, oh, you have to have a mask or you have to be sanitized?
I personally haven't witnessed it, but I've seen it on social media about people, having meltdowns about wearing a mask or complaining that they can't breathe while wearing a mask. And I honestly think that at least just wear a mask, even if it's a cough one or something, you know.
I noticed you mentioned finances. Do you have any concerns about them?
Yeah. Like, it's hard to make a living here because of the low paying, wage and all that. And then COVID on top of that.
Would you say it has impacted your ability to financially contribute to your family?
For sure.
Would you say COVID has changed the way you work?
Yeah.
Do you think you could explain or go in a little bit of depth of how it has?
Most things are done online now, like things that wouldn't be, like applications, certain applications and all that. Um, you just get hired like that. I find that quite neat.
Would you say this new course of applying for a job has helped you understand like technology better, or at least become more accustomed to it?
Yeah, I'm more accustomed to it.
Because of COVID and its impacts on you, would you say your duties have shifted, like in the household?
A little bit, yeah.
Could you explain how so?
Um, being the breadwinner.
How would you describe your experience as the breadwinner? Are you still relatively new to it?
Yeah, I am, and it's stressful.
Would you say your new status as the breadwinner, like perhaps it's changed your own view of yourself, or perhaps maybe made you realize things you didn't know about yourself before?
It made me realize how hard it is to be the breadwinner. You gotta take a lot of things into account. Do I have enough for this? Should I get this? Should I get that? Do I have enough to pay this? Stuff like that. And that's about it.
Did you ever have
As far as handling it, not gonna lie, I do crack under pressure sometimes, but I gotta get myself back up.
did you ever have to experience that before, like even when you were young?
Um, no.
Okay, I'd like to touch up on some other questions. How, if at all, have the current social movements in conjunction with COVID-19 impacted your daily life?
Um, Not at all, really. But I'm glad that people are being heard.
Has have the social movements changed your perspectives on certain things, or at least enlighten you on certain topics?
Yeah, it has opened up my eyes to see how much hatred there still is, and it kind of surprises me, honestly.
Do you think these social movements have impacted your town?
Um, no, I don't think so.
As for with your experience with watching the social movements from media, has it made you contemplate if you could or would participate in a protest?
Um, kind of, yeah.
If you're comfortable, what are some things you would like to advocate for?
Um, Planned Parenthood, Um, legal abortions. And that's about it.
As for that, what was your initial reaction to the social movements, especially since they happened during a time when COVID was still quite rampant among cities?
Um, I was shocked by the amount of chaos and stuff that was happening around the bigger cities and all that.
Could you ever see something like those movements happening in your town?
No.
Would you say it's more so the size of your town, or because of the fact that it's a tourist town?
The fact that it's a tourist town and the fact that it's small.
As we close off with our interview, I'd like to ask some other additional questions.
Go ahead.
How well do you think your school handled COVID?
I feel like at first they were okay. The kids were out of school. We started doing online classes. To better protect ourselves from spreading COVID or getting COVID. And they made the kids go back, even though wearing a mask all day is very frustrating, and more than likely they're gonna forget or they're gonna lose their mask, something. I really don't see it as working, even though they have sanitizer and they say that they put a kid, they space the kid. I still feel like they don't, due to the fact that there's not enough room.
In what ways do you think they could have done better?
I feel like overall the kids should have stayed home and learned from home instead of going back. But that's just my opinion.
Also, I'd like to ask, what was your family's reaction to COVID?
Pretty scared.
And also, how would you describe your quote COVID life or your quarantine life?
It was very. It was nice at first, but then it kind of lasted longer, and eventually I got bored, you know.
Okay, as we're concluding, I want to ask, is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experiences with COVID-19 that I have not asked about?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
All right. If that is where you want to leave off, thank you so much for participating in my interview.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course.